Welcome to our channel dedicated to discussing relationship issues that many people face in their daily lives. Let's delve into the story. My wife and I recently made the decision to tie the knot after being in a relationship for over 6 years. Our connection had always been strong, and it was only natural for us to commit to spending our lives together. Initially, everything seemed fine with my in-laws, and everyone appeared friendly and supportive. However, shortly after our wedding, I started noticing some unsettling behavior from my sister-in-law's husband towards my wife. His interactions with her seemed overly affectionate and intimate, and his tone towards her raised suspicions in my mind. Over time, I became increasingly convinced that his intentions towards my wife were not purely familial. I observed how he would go out of his way to impress my wife and seek her validation, almost like a love-struck teenager trying to win her over. Despite living on shared property and being essentially neighbors, he would make a point to greet my wife exclusively every morning. He showered her with gifts and romantic gestures, crossing the line of mere friendship. There were instances where he attempted to kiss her on the cheek, passing it off as a customary family greeting. Although I noticed that his kisses were uncomfortably close to her mouth, I chose not to confront anyone to avoid causing any disrespect or tension within the family. One particular incident during a family gathering highlighted his inappropriate behavior. My wife had meticulously prepared a delicious meal for everyone, ensuring that each guest's preferences were taken into account. As the evening progressed, my sister-in-law's husband excessively praised my wife's cooking skills and her value as a wife, making the atmosphere increasingly uncomfortable for everyone present. After dinner, as we helped with the cleaning, I took the opportunity to discreetly express my concerns to my wife about her sister-in-law's husband's behavior that evening. However, she remained silent for a moment, indicating that she had noticed something off as well. Relentlessly making her uncomfortable with his inappropriate behavior, she finally admitted to feeling extremely uneasy around him. She recounted instances where he would shower her with unwarranted compliments about her homemaking skills and make flirtatious remarks that were completely out of place. Once I had confirmation that my concerns were valid, I approached him outside in the garden, seeking a private conversation. Despite his insistence on discussing matters openly in front of the family, I confronted him about his behavior towards my wife. I made it clear that his actions, which included giving her gifts behind his wife's back, unnecessary physical contact, and one-sided flirting, were unacceptable and made everyone uncomfortable. I warned him that any further inappropriate behavior towards my wife would not be tolerated, and he would face consequences for his actions. In response, he denied any romantic interest in my wife, attributing his actions to treating her like a sister and expressing generosity due to financial struggles. However, his excuses seemed flimsy considering his lavish lifestyle and status within the family. He conveniently chose to address only the accusations that portrayed him in a favorable light, deflecting from the real issue at hand. Following the tense conversation, an awkward silence enveloped the gathering, and everyone dispersed soon after. The following day, my in-laws called us over for dinner and attempted to downplay the previous day's argument. However, when we announced our decision to move out, they reacted defensively and accused me of fabricating stories to cover up my alleged infidelity. Their refusal to acknowledge the severity of the situation and their attempts to undermine my concerns left my wife and me feeling betrayed and frustrated. Unable to tolerate their dismissal of our feelings, we left their house in disbelief. Realizing that they were siding with my sister-in-law's husband and attempting to sweep his misconduct under the rug. When I shared my experiences with my own family, it became apparent that my sister-in-law's husband's inappropriate behavior towards my wife was a significant issue that needed addressing. It's truly disheartening to hear about the ordeal you've been enduring, with someone trying to dismantle your marriage through manipulative and predatory tactics. Even in the presence of your family, who shockingly seemed unable to grasp the gravity of the situation, leaving you feeling utterly disappointed, particularly in your parents-in-law. I can't help but share in your disappointment. Were I in your shoes, I'd find it deeply unsettling to witness such behavior from those who should stand beside you unequivocally. Indeed, the mere thought of anyone mistreating my spouse in such a manner would undoubtedly stir a visceral reaction within me, perhaps prompting actions less restrained than your commendable composure. Kudos to you for maintaining your poise and addressing the situation maturely with your wife, thereby fortifying the bond between you both. However, it's lamentable that your in-laws opted to side with him, turning a blind eye to the truth glaring right before them, which speaks volumes about their own moral compass. It's conceivable that their allegiance stems from a misguided sense of loyalty based on seniority or familiarity, but that doesn't excuse their failure to discern right from wrong. If I were in your position, I'd seriously consider limiting interactions with such toxic influences, safeguarding the sanctity of your relationship from further encroachment. Rest assured, you're not in the wrong here. Rather, you've exhibited commendable restraint and resilience in the face of adversity. I can't help but draw parallels to a past experience of mine, where I found myself confronted with a similar betrayal of trust during a vacation, prompting an immediate response to protect my relationship. While our circumstances may differ, the underlying sentiment of betrayal and the subsequent need for decisive action resonate deeply with me. Cutting ties with those who undermine your happiness and well-being is a prudent decision, one that reflects your commitment to nurturing a healthy and secure partnership. As for your roommate's Thanksgiving plans, while I may not share the cultural significance of the holiday, I understand its importance and the desire to celebrate it with loved ones. If hosting their families brings them joy, then I say embrace the opportunity provided it doesn't overshadow your own comfort or plans. In the grand scheme of things, prioritizing your own happiness and peace of mind is paramount, regardless of cultural norms or familial expectations. Wishing you and your wife all the happiness and resilience in navigating through these trying times. As discussions about their impending marriage unfolded, they approached me, seeking permission to utilize the kitchen and living room for their festivities. Initially, I readily agreed, simply inquiring about the timing of their family's arrival so I could retreat to my room and ensure I didn't intrude upon their celebrations. However, their plans quickly expanded beyond what I had anticipated. They outlined a grandiose 3-day affair, the first day dedicated to her family, the second to his, and the third to friends. Moreover, they intended to orchestrate an elaborate feast, complete with days of preparation, intricate decorations, and even an overnight stay for one of her cousins, who had to travel a considerable distance to attend. Their overarching request, however, gave me pause. They asked me to vacate the premises entirely during this period. They suggested that I could enjoy a brief getaway at a hotel, effectively removing myself from the equation to accommodate their needs. This proposition sparked a contentious debate between us. While I harbored no qualms about confining myself to my room for 3 days or relinquishing access to the kitchen for their culinary endeavors, I adamantly refused to entertain the notion of a stranger occupying my personal space. Furthermore, the idea of footing the bill for a hotel stay didn't sit well with me, considering my equal contributions to rent and household expenses. They countered, asserting that I failed to grasp the significance of the occasion, likening it to a one-time event akin to Thanksgiving. In response, I emphasized the extent of my compromise, highlighting my willingness to accommodate their needs while still asserting my right to my personal space within our shared home. Tensions escalated as our discussion grew more heated, culminating in a regrettable exchange rife with insults and acrimony. The following day, her aunt visited, attempting to assuage the situation by offering a substantial sum to cover hotel expenses along with some spending money. Despite the generous gesture, I stood firm in my stance, emphasizing the sanctity of my personal space and my reluctance to be evicted from my own home, even temporarily. While money wasn't the primary concern, the atmosphere between us remained strained, compounded by ongoing passive-aggressive remarks from my roommate. It's worth noting that our relationship doesn't extend beyond cordial roommate interactions, making the prospect of attending their celebratory meal rather awkward and out of place. In the realm of familial dynamics, there's a peculiar scenario unfolding. A narrative where a few individuals, rather perplexingly, dictate the spatial arrangements within the household. Curiously enough, few have dared to inquire about the rationale behind their insistence on having the cousin occupy my quarters while relegating me to a hotel room. The imbalance in this arrangement bewilders me. Their explanation of the cousin's assistance with preparations, coupled with their purported arduous journey, fails to provide a comprehensive justification. My conjecture leads me to surmise that perhaps they merely sought a pretext to evict me entirely, though I must concede that such speculation remains conjectural on my part. It's confounding. Why should one vacate their abode if it's deemed inadequate by others? The audacity of it all. Your domicile, your sanctum, should remain sacrosanct. Why, then, should you concede your rightful space? Assert your dominion. Inform your roommate that they ought to seek alternative accommodations for Thanksgiving. It's an egregious affront that they would host Thanksgiving in your premises sans invitation extended to you. Your room, sacrosanct and inviolable, is not theirs to commandeer. If the aunt can accommodate your lodging expenses, she can undoubtedly extend the same courtesy to the cousin. The sheer audacity of the aunt, ostensibly purchasing your absence from your own home, is nothing short of reprehensible. You, unequivocally, are not the perpetrator of any wrongdoing in this scenario. Your roommate's audacious demands, insisting on the surrender of your personal space for their cousin, are entirely unjustifiable. Stand your ground. You're not the villain in this narrative. Alas, navigating this ordeal is fraught with complexities. Choosing between acquiescence to avoid conflict or asserting your rights despite potential discomfort poses a formidable dilemma. Regrettably, you're contending with irrational actors, rendering conventional norms obsolete. It's a lamentable predicament thrust upon you by unreasonable individuals. The crux of the matter isn't whether you're culpable. It's about devising coping mechanisms for this untenable situation. Best of luck. Know that, to any rational observer, you're unequivocally blameless. On to the next saga, the impending nuptials of one of your cousins, set to unfold in a distant locale due to the residence of the bride-to-be's nonagenarian relatives. While the majority of the invitees could effortlessly traverse the 2.5-hour journey, legal constraints preclude one of your siblings from partaking in the festivities. Tensions escalate as your parents lament this geographical inconvenience, prompting futile attempts to sway the choice of venue. Your cousin's resolute refusal to acquiesce to external pressure underscores the gravity of their decision. In the intricate tapestry of familial intricacies, a saga unfolds where the prospect of transporting two nonagenarians on a cumbersome journey to a wedding venue becomes a contentious issue. The proximity of alternative venues suggested by my mother, aunt, and other relatives, alluding to the state border, is dismissed due to their unavailability, necessitating a significant postponement of the wedding. Nonetheless, my cousin remains resolute in his decision to uphold the original venue, conveniently situated a mere 10-minute drive from the nursing home where the elderly relatives reside. As an usher at the wedding, I find myself embroiled in the ensuing discord, with my mother and aunt expressing discontent over my refusal to advocate for a venue change. Meanwhile, my father, though less vocal, aligns with their sentiments. Personally, I harbor the belief that such matters are beyond my purview. Refusing to intercede on behalf of my brother, who's precluded from being an usher due to legal constraints, invites ire from my kin. My steadfast response underscores my conviction in his agency as an adult, accountable for his own predicament. A stance that further exacerbates familial tensions. The revelation of my brother's transgressions, stemming from his deceptive actions following his girlfriend's car accident, elucidates the gravity of his situation. His attempt to fabricate a narrative, compounded by his disregard for legal ramifications, incites both legal and moral repercussions. While some may sympathize with his purported intent to shield his girlfriend, the collateral damage inflicted upon innocent parties underscores the callousness of his actions. The family's reluctance to hold him accountable only perpetuates his cycle of irresponsibility, depriving him of the opportunity for genuine introspection and growth. In light of these circumstances, my assertion that he alone bears responsibility for his plight remains unwavering. The family's censure notwithstanding, I maintain my stance, cognizant that indulging in misplaced sympathy serves only to enable his deleterious behavior. Thus, I unequivocally stand by my assertion. I am not the antagonist in this narrative. In the intricate tapestry of familial complexities, there lies a story rife with nuances and familial tensions. At its core is the dilemma of venue selection for an impending wedding, stirred by the simmering discontent from certain family members. The fact remains that all the blame falls squarely on your brother, who has displayed a reckless disregard and landed himself in the midst of a legal quagmire. These sentiments reflect a resolute belief that those not financially invested in the wedding affairs should refrain from interjecting their opinions. Your brother's audacious attempt at insurance fraud serves as a stark testament to his folly, warranting condemnation rather than coddling. Central to the narrative is the autonomy afforded to your cousin and his betrothed, who consciously opted to forego financial assistance from their families to avoid unwarranted interference in their wedding plans. It's a commendable decision that underscores their determination to maintain control over their matrimonial arrangements. Interestingly, absent from the tale is any indication of your brother's overt appeals for a change in venue or solicitation of your intervention on his behalf. Instead, the discord appears to emanate predominantly from your mother and aunt, precipitating a whirlwind of familial drama. Does your brother harbor any objections to the circumstances, or does he resign himself to the prevailing status quo, cognizant of the immutable nature of his predicament? Your steadfast adherence to truthfulness regarding your brother's transgressions is commendable, reflective of an unwavering commitment to integrity amidst familial tumult. You, unequivocally, are not the perpetrator in this scenario. Rather, it is your brother who must confront the repercussions of his actions with unyielding resolve. It is disheartening that familial complicity obscures accountability, deflecting culpability from where it rightfully belongs.